and hello to you joining us for A Measure of Marketing, Season 2, Episode 15, where we're joined by marketing and video consultant Dan Dennis, who works for a small company called Video Formula, and he supports small businesses wanting to establish video content as part of their marketing. And today we're talking to him about how he creates evergreen content and how it's helped him with his business rather than with his clients.
Yes, I'm excited to talk to him. He is the loveliest guy. I met him from networking, I think, in the last couple of years. Yeah, sweet guy. And I'm interested to hear his story because I know him as a videographer and we speak a lot about that side of it, but I don't actually know, yeah, why he got started solo. So that would be interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Hi, Dan, and thanks for joining us today on A Measure of Marketing. It's so nice to have you here. We was just saying, wasn't we, second podcast as a guest?
Yeah, this is it. Second
Yeah.
podcast as a guest. Normally I'm the host, but the shoe's on
Oh,
the other foot this time.
yeah, pressure's on. Um, yeah, we're going to talk about evergreen content today. So you are a content king as a videographer. Explain to the audience like what you do. Yeah, tell us a little bit about your journey, like how you set up by yourself. Yeah, what did you do before? Because I don't think I actually know that part
Yeah,
either.
absolutely. I've done I wore a few hats in my time, but I guess they've always been content related, right? So, for anyone who doesn't know who I am, I'm Dan Dennis. I've got a company called Video Formula, and we help create video for people and put it into their marketing strategies. And typically, it's people who have never done video or really done much content before, right? So I like to sort of like help them. But I haven't always done that. I started out, I was just like being a nightclub photographer. So when I was in
Oh.
uni, I was all about like nightclub events and stuff like that, which was great when I was younger. But as I got a bit older, I was like, how long can I keep on doing this for? And holding on to going out every weekend and taking photos. But then I've also worked in marketing agency and also as like an in-house marketing team as well, which was all about cars. So I've done a few different stuff really, but always kind of with a camera and with content in mind.
And then, so how did you become like, what was the decision-making process behind you leaving organizations and going solo?
So I was lucky enough I started my business in uni, right? I
Mm.
kind of, it was like 2017 and I had a camera. I was doing this course, media production. So I knew a little bit about a camera. And then someone at the time recommended me to a local bar and was like, oh, you should take photos at the weekend as like a self-employed role. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. And then throughout uni and then for a little bit sort of after uni, I slowly ended up getting like most of the big clubs and bars under my belt. So in one Friday, Saturday night, I was going to like five different venues. Like then I started getting a few other students to help me out in venues where I was like, oh, I'll give you, 30 quid if you go here and take some photos here, sort of thing. So it was all like very much just like it just grew as it went. And then COVID hit and obviously all the nightclubs and bars closed down and then I was instantly just like, oh, I've just lost all my clients. So like that's unusual. That doesn't really happen. So I was just kind of stuck then basically, and that's when I ended up having to get an in-house role and actually get a job. But then after that is when I was kind of like, I've still got this hunger to start my own business. I felt like it was like taken away from me without
Yeah.
me like sort of without a choice. So I was like, I need to have that back. And that's why I was like at the start of um 2024, I set up on my own again. I was like, I'm going to move home with my parents, set up my business, and sort of start from the ground up again. And I've been here ever since, pretty much doing this ever since.
And then, so like when you went solo, what was your like process of becoming visible and like how did you, I guess it can probably seem like, oh, if you're in marketing or you've got that like marketing side to you, it's super easy like to market yourself and set your own marketing up. But yeah, what was your experience of that?
It's
Um,
so bloody difficult. It's not as easy as it seems. Like most things, right? You can. I find it a lot easier to do it for other people than I do it for myself, right? Because
Yeah.
you've got that 3D perspective of someone else. You can see a lot more about them, and you have a lot less of that
Yeah.
self-doubt when you're helping someone else out. Whereas when you're trying to do it for yourself, there's all these elements that come in. It's like, oh, what if the people from school take the mick out of me? Or like, even though you've not spoken to them in about 15 years, it's like, what if, my content's bad and I'm not good enough to put myself out there? So yeah, there is all these obstacles that do come in, but you have to chip away at them and just try different things. That's sort of what I've been doing, and I still don't think I've quite hit the nail on the head. But by just trying and doing something, you'll be invisible, right? Something is always better than nothing. So as long as you're trying and failing, I think that's all you can do.
Yeah. What types of things have you tried so far? Like what have you seen? I guess like what's worked, but like what's worked for you. I think that's the most important thing, isn't it? Like what do you prefer to do from a content perspective?
I started out right back at the beginning. I was doing TikToks and I was scripting them all out and I would film them on like massive. I'd sit down in a day and film 30 in a day and drip them out
Oh.
over the month. And I was like, yeah, this would be it. But then slowly and slowly felt like a chore and I just really wasn't enjoying it. So I kind
Mm.
of tried that, parked that and was like, let's try something else. And now I've kind of, the next thing after that was I developed my own podcast. So I think that was a lot better in a way of capturing lots of content all at once,
Mm.
and putting it out there. And it was easy for me because I could sit down and have a chat with someone and then just post it rather than having to like do all of the scripting, do all of the B-roll and all of the motion graphics and everything else that comes into adding value to a piece of content, right? It was just raw and it could just go out there. And I really enjoyed doing that. Um, it's still very difficult to, as you guys probably know, to plan, produce, and edit and upload a podcast. So it does take its
Yeah.
time. And as I've been growing, that time has sort of been decreasing as well. So I've not been as consistent as I'd like to be with the podcast. So now what is kind of working for me that fits in with my rest of my workflow and with what I do as sort of a solopreneur is I try and just focus on the networking and catching up with people on LinkedIn after the fact with sort of like posting on LinkedIn and things like that. So it's a bit of a system as anyone who you network and meet, you're posting on LinkedIn, engaging with them on LinkedIn with like doesn't necessarily have to be super technical about what you do, but just keep being aware, being in like a space that people can recognize you and follow on with
Yeah.
along with your story, really.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of the best way really of doing it rather than stressing yourself out a bit about it too much. If you are on your own, you strap for cash, strap for resources and time. Just keep people updated with what you're doing in your life, really.
Yeah.
Mm.
And like in the essence of evergreen content as well, do you have like a process of how how you think of an idea and then like do you have like a calendar and then you put different ideas in it, or do you just work off a whim? I was chatting to a client yesterday, and I feel like that's one of the biggest areas is we all know what we can do, what the opportunities are, what we should be doing, but often it's, oh, we've got all these thoughts, and how do they convert into content? And should I be, like everyone's saying schedule and everyone's saying batch create and other people are doing this and yeah, like what do you do on that from that perspective?
I think really you have to do what fits into your workflow. From a practical
Mm.
sense, you have to do what works right. So if
Yeah.
on batch works for you, do it on batch. If doing it as and when you can, do it as and when you can, right? People are completely different. Some people are super well organized and it's successful. Some people are literally all over the place and are super successful as well, right? So you got to do what works for you. When it comes to the evergreen content and the stuff that you want to use over and over again, I think it's really important to understand of what content goes on what platform and what purpose is it serving. I think when it comes to things like LinkedIn, it moves so fast, right? I think that's why you can afford to be a bit more sort of like talk about what's going on day to day, being a bit less scripted. because it moves so fast. What you post today, someone's going to forget about in 2 weeks. Whereas if you're putting something on your website, something a little bit more evergreen, that's where you need to be thinking about, right, what page is this? What landing page is this content on? Why are people on this page, and what do you want to get out of them? Because it's going to stick there for a lot longer, right? So for me in my business, although I'm very sort of like doing things on a whim in on social media and my sort of my top of funnel stuff, my bottom funnel stuff, I'm developing videos that are a lot more direct to like, okay, this is your problem, this is how I'm going to fix your problem, this is my 3 step easy process of doing that, right? So I'm a lot more sort of salesy and to the point with my evergreen content, and I'm a bit more whimsical and a bit more over the place with my top of funnel content then. And that's sort of how I sort of play it. And I think the more whimsical top of funnel stuff has to be a bit more quicker, a bit more sort of spontaneous, and the
Yeah.
bottom of funnel, more evergreen, everlasting content needs to be a bit more thought about and a bit more produced.
Yeah, and I think that's like having that like structure of that top middle to bottom of the funnel. If I think if you don't have that as like the base framework to work around, that's when you I see a lot of business owners either really planning out the top of the funnel and then feeling like, oh, this is a massive chore, or they flip it, they go the other way where they are like whimsical, as you say, across all of it. And then
Mm.
there's no like structure to it. And then it doesn't work at the bottom. So, yeah, I really like that.
And to be
Not,
honest, a lot of people say like nowadays, especially like, the some people say the argument is that the funnel's dead and it's not a funnel, it's a circle and it's not 3 steps, it's 8 steps. Do you know what I mean? There's like so many conversations around that. But I think in reality, all that boils down to is that you need a good story. You need a good story that people can follow that is tailored to them as their mind is changing in the buying cycle, right? It's kind
yeah.
of like as long as you're not overwhelming them to begin with, and you're entertaining them and you're being captivating at the start, and by the end of it you're solving their problem and it's a full story loop and people actually like understand what you're trying to do. That's the fundamentals of it, really. Like it could be a funnel, a circle, a triangle, like
Yeah.
whatever. As long as it's a good story, I think like that's sort of the main thing.
Yeah. Funnel. It's a funnel.
I
Like,
think it's a funnel. I'm in full camp.
yeah. And it's almost like the part of just if you strip it all away, just having a conversation with somebody new, really, isn't it? Like you share all the bits at the top and you yeah, you share parts about yourself and then you meet again for another coffee further down and then you start to give a bit of value and then at the bottom when you've met a couple more times you start to talk about how you can help them if it was laid out in a linear path. um it works in that same way, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
like
You don't want
platforms.
to overwhelm people to begin with, and that's comes across. That's the same with like more top of funnel like entertaining content and like your evergreen content as well, right? You don't want to like show your hand too early on and overwhelm people or just overcomplicate a situation. Let get to know people first and let people get to know you. And I think that's going to be, especially when you're working on your own, you are the face of your business. um, you've got to sort of let people warm to you as a person before you start trying to shove deals down their throat and trying to sell them stuff and things like that.
Yeah. What do you think the balance is then? Like, or how do you approach that side of it too? Because I guess at the top we can be talking across social media about like what we're up to, this that sharing a little bit more about ourselves and um like I always think of Instagram stories, like it's so easy, isn't it, to be like posting various things that you're doing, but then no one actually gets to really realize what you do or how you can work with them. Like, how do you approach that side of content and I guess making it evergreen throughout a longer process as well?
I think you have to use like the right tools, the right tools in the right way, I guess. So like for Instagram, I would try and keep it as top of funnel as possible, and I would sort of like, as people de delve a little bit more into your profile, that's when I would sort of share a little bit more about what you do and how people can almost go to the next step. Obviously, with your content, you kind of also want to feed in the problems that you can fix for people. Um, but I think like ultimately you have to think of why people are on these platforms. Like if am I on Instagram trying to solve all my problems? Probably not. I'm there to doom scroll and be entertained and to procrastinate from my problems, right? So it's like I think if you can tie in your solution with that, I think that's great. But I think really to do like the main evergreen stuff, I think it's taking them off social media platform, trying to bring them onto your content, your platforms as much as possible, really. That's what my advice would be because it's kind of like you don't want to leave your evergreen content either in the hands of platforms like Instagram. Because it's like it's great to build a platform on them, but ultimately you don't have control over your community. It's like LinkedIn can flick a switch straight away, and all of a sudden they're not seeing any of your content, and then you're left with like nothing, right? So I try and put the evergreen stuff off platform and try and pull people out of these platforms onto your own spaces that you can have more control over.
Yeah. And what spaces do you have more of your own that you have more control over?
It's like your own website, your own mailing list as well is a really good one. I
Yeah.
think mailing lists are sort of coming a bit more into popularity again nowadays. But I would again still write your mailing list like full of personality and like that you're writing a letter to like your best friend rather than like this is what the company's been up to this week. Because again, it's like who cares? It's like, but I'm getting a handwritten letter from the CEO every week into my inbox, that sounds a little bit more like pleasing to someone who's like following your backing. And I guess you have full control over that then, you know exactly who the email is going to. You can put links to wherever you want. You can have that more evergreen content that's a bit more salesy because they know who you are. And keep it away from those like out out there those sort of other platforms.
Yeah. And do you do any like workshops or anything like that in your business as like part of your delivery, like I guess like lower ticket value educational bits? Have you done anything like that before?
To be honest, that is a bit of an area where we're trying to develop into, but we are struggling a little bit and just finding what's right because it is a balance of like sort of like the time versus the reward back and how much we want to commit to it, right? Because in the past, I've sort of been like thinking about, oh, I could just do like editing packages where we like edit for people because a real big issue is that technical ability of people just don't know what to do when they're editing. And I
Yeah.
think workshops would solve that as well. But then I have a lot of personal fears around standing in front of people and delivering a workshop as well. I need to get over. So it's definitely an ongoing process. But also as a solo entrepreneur, it's like where do I want to put my time? Like there's only so many hours in a day, and it can be quite difficult juggling things. And it's like, what do I want to do? Do I want to push the more expensive, high ticket corporate stuff, or do I want to cater to that
Yeah.
down sort of the less high ticket item stuff? It's like it is a constant battle, really. But personally, I've been pushing more recently on the more corporate stuff, engaging with bigger teams and trying to be how can I be um, that marketing partner for your existing marketing team that can offer those skills rather than trying to sort of like preach to everyone and sort of that mass market thing. And to be honest, that's something that I've kind of realized and switched into over this year. I've kind of before I was kind of like, yeah, we need numbers, as many people looking at my socials as possible. We need to be engaging with as many people as possible. Where now I'm thinking actually is having a more tight-knit community of people actually probably going to pay off better. So it's still an experimental phase, but I'm personally edging more down that route. But that's just kind of the business that I want to do, really.
Yeah. And it does, I think with content overall, it comes back down to obviously the goal, doesn't it? Like there's that visibility bit of LinkedIn, Instagram, but why do you want the numbers in the first place? Or like how many people, how many clients can you actually manage? And also like really defining who it is that you actually want to work with, like being a partner. with a bigger business is very, very different, and will create very different content to educating a room full of other solo entrepreneurs on how to edit a reel for Instagram to help them. It like is a whole different strategy in itself, isn't it?
It is crazy because it's like the slightest almost
Slightest tweak.
pivot in the business
Yeah.
really has like a huge effect on the rest of the marketing and messaging. Because like
Yeah.
even with the podcast, right, video marketing toolkit, it's like you have to kind of think, and I always think this, like, is it actually appealing to business owners, which is kind of would be the wishful target market, or I'm actually just appealing to other marketers and other videographers, and then you have to
Yeah.
think it's like that's then completely wrong. But then it's also like, okay, if I am targeting people on marketing teams, maybe then I do need a little bit more of a marketing-based podcast and how video can help it. And then in that case, it's like the people who I'm talking to on my Instagram, am I actually only talking to 10 people, like 10 key people? Is that all I need to do? So it just throws up so many different questions. And that's really, in the grand scheme of it, a slight pivot on the business, but then the marketing just gets thrown out completely, right? So
Uh,
it is crazy how it all folds into each other.
yeah. And do you think then like yeah, Hayley, I like your perspective on this. Like, do you at what point, if you do want to pivot, like what at what point do you just stop doing content? Like, because you've still got to business owners, I've heard this a lot as well. Like business owners are like content, content, content. That's all like we're bloody doing. But they want to shift slightly or come up with a new service or get rid of an old one that's not really working for them or they don't enjoy anymore. Like, how do you do that from a content perspective if you're wanting to change part of your business to keep
I
yourself
think
still visible?
I think it all comes down to testing, personally, isn't it? It comes down to the analytics, and it's kind of that you don't want to change anything too quick, right? If you change everything overnight, then it's kind of just like we've completely just switched everything up. But I guess
Yeah.
if you do it bit by bit and compare A/B testing, post to post, slowly transitioning, seeing a response. I think that's probably the best way of doing it. And I don't think you can never rush into anything too early. Um, I think it's good to have a look at let's say the past 3 months, for example, of how you're performing, and then being like making informed decisions off of that, rather than being like, well, this post did really crap, so we're never going to do this again. It's like that's just not enough time to sort of let it grow into it. But
Yeah.
also, if you want to experiment with content, rather than experimenting with content on like a mailing list or like on your website, experimenting it where you're going to get results quicker on things like social media, because then at least you get like an instant response rather than having to wait a lot longer. Um,
Mm.
but also I feel like people get scared of content as well. Like if you want to try something new, just try it. Don't spend like 3, 4 days thinking
Mm.
about a carousel and how you're going to slowly tweak this one Instagram carousel. It's like it's just not worth it. Just get it out and see what happens. Like people
Yeah.
will forget about it like super quickly. But yeah, don't get into your head about it. Just I think just try new things is probably the best way. I'm not sure if that answered the question or I went on a complete tangent there. There's something in there we can pick out.
Something in there. Something in there we can edit together, Dan.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Hayley, how would you approach it? What would you do if you was pivoting and still needed content, and would you do the whole testing thing as well?
Well, I'm pivoting at the moment to offer different services and I've pretty much got an idea of what they are for Maisie Marketing, but still doing the research, still talking to other people. But what I haven't stopped doing is marketing and the content that I'm putting out there. I always go back to the brand because the brand story doesn't necessarily change.
Mm.
But from kind of the perspective of topical content, my insights and my knowledge around the subject areas I would help people with hasn't changed either. So I focused more on that and less about the kind of 25% of the sales orientated stuff and 75% more of the content which my views or my thinking or the brand story is evergreen. So while I'm taking a step back from pushing my services or pushing and rolling out how I help people, I'm still keeping going and keeping it rolling with insights and everything else.
Yeah.
And my the new services sadly aren't going to take 3-4 days and be able to put them out. It's kind of 3-4 months of me planning and building them. So I've got probably 3-4 months where I'm having to think a bit outside the box and think of content which probably is more evergreen because it won't change. But I don't necessarily have a call to action of here's this or here's that from it. But at least I'm not stopping marketing. I'm not stopping the content rolling out.
Yeah. I think it's interesting in this conversation as well of how we're defining evergreen. Because I think, like Dan, you've mentioned evergreen on like website content, and it's about the problem or like more of the I guess salesy part at the bottom. And then Hayley's mentioned evergreen from like the brand message throughout. And yes, and my brain's going. And yesterday when I was with a client, we was talking about, I guess this could be evergreen, is the person was trying to think of different creative ideas for Instagram. And I was like, no, let's just go back to like, what do you believe in? What are your thoughts on this topic? What topics do you constantly think about that build up a picture of you if someone was to scroll through your whole profile? They'll be like, I know, I get a feel that if I was sat in front of this person, I would know what she was about. So I was going back into this evergreen message almost of what are your standards, what are your values, what do you believe in, that thought leadership bit. So again, it's something that you can chop up and slice in different ways, isn't it? Depending on what you're actually working on as well.
It's so true as well. Like, and it's definitely interesting seeing it from that way as well, because it is kind of like someone's story will always be essentially someone's story. Is that, like the question you asked to me, like, what was the reason you wanted to go sort of freelance and do it yourself? That
Yeah.
is my evergreen story. That will not really change now, will it? I can change always what services I offer, but that is always going to be the story. And that's a good almost evergreen hook for other people to be interested in other people's stories as well, isn't it? But
Yeah.
you can almost swap and change a lot, but that is ultimately still going to be their foundations, isn't it?
Yeah. And I kind of tapped into that because if you listen to very, very successful people, I listened to Lewis Howes, The School of Greatness, his podcast, and I could literally repeat his story because I've heard him say it so many times from listening to all of his episodes. It will be woven into most of the episodes, or his intro to when he just talks about himself is always the same thing. And that's what I see it as evergreen content, is that mission, like mission, purpose, values, unless you're completely changing industry in your business or doing something entirely different, then it could change slightly. But yeah, the you part of content.
And it's kind of like when you consume content and follow these individuals, you're so right that you end up watching so much of their content that you do know their story like off by heart.
Yeah.
Like even like some celebrities, it's like, oh, how did this person, why is this person famous? And it's like, well, they've done this, they've done that. Like you get to
But
know
you can't
the
say your
story.
own.
Yeah, and then someone asks
Yeah.
you, and you go,
Yeah, you've got
like
60 seconds at a networking event and you're like,
I absolutely hate them. There's nothing worse than standing up and telling people what you do in 60 seconds in front of it makes my skin like I feel like I'm
yeah,
back at school. I literally
yeah,
just set up, blurt something random out, and then just sit back down again. Like
yeah.
I
But
think
that's
I'm
the
getting
bit
to
where
them.
we should be standing up and being like, not selling, but this is what we're about. This is what we're
Mm.
passionate about. And if you spend that time on that for your content, then I feel that most other bits afterwards become a lot easier because you've tapped back into your your own mission and your own belief on certain things.
Why are you doing it? What is the purpose of
Yeah,
you? Why are you here right now doing this
yeah,
sort of thing?
yeah. And that's then the bit on the website, isn't it? Or your pinned post on LinkedIn or Instagram. And
And it is super powerful because I guess it's that empathy, isn't it? It's that reason why you understand that this is what I've been through, this is why I can help you. It's kind of like it really taps into that
normal
empathy
person's
towards
life.
someone in that situation. It's like I was once like you, this is how I can fix it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Now I'm a millionaire. That's normally the next line, but
Now I
oh,
drive this Lamborghini.
yeah.
Like this is how you can do it too.
Yeah, yeah. Surely we have to find a we've got when it's our turn, we'll have a different line than that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There is a lot of, and I feel like it's almost like that evergreen content. I guess, there is a lot of that almost fake evergreen content around there nowadays, right? Of people sort of like with these stories, these backstories and these missions, but they're not actually like that genuine. But I think people can
Mm.
shine through it so much more nowadays than what they used to do. I think when especially with social media, it always comes back to social media, right? But especially with social media, people were tricked a lot earlier on into believing like these fake stories. Um, but now, even with AI, I think people are just craving authentic, real people,
Yeah.
real stories, real lived experiences. And I think it just shines through so much more than other things.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just normal humans.
Yeah, human beings.
Definitely. Thank you, Dan, for a good
Brilliant.
conversation. I feel like we covered loads there.
No, it was definitely a whistle stop tour of content, I think.
Yeah, gosh, we'll be
Content.
talking. Yeah, we'll be here for a year if we into
And
that. It was good to get your like personal perspective on it as well, and like stepping outside of the um videographer that you are. Because like you said, it's tricky when you're in it and like you're fully invested and you're trying to figure out what people want. And I think that's why I have it like having a conversation with either someone else that has a bit of a marketing head, or is just someone that's even a few years ahead of you, or just has a different perspective. I think it's really good to hear from different people and have that conversation as well. It
yeah,
always
definitely. I
comes to
think you just
mind.
got to do what you enjoy at the end of the day. Like for me personally, like I was thinking about it now, I was making content when I was like playing video games as a kid, right? Trying to become a YouTuber sort of thing. I was like making YouTube videos with my friends and all that was like content, but I was only doing that because I wanted to. I was never even thinking about the
Yeah,
monetary value. So I think if you are struggling to get started, just do something that's fun and then eventually t try and monetize it, tie in the business. Just make anything to begin with. At least you're working on yourself more than anything then.
yeah.
Mm.
And that's why like the Instagram accounts from like you sharing if you do sport or your cats, if they've got an Instagram account of their own, they normally perform really well because like the passions behind it and like you enjoy grabbing videos of your cat
And
and then
that's it.
posting it. And
And
but
if
then
you
when
enjoy
it's
something, other people probably enjoy doing something as well. So it's a
yeah,
good way to find a niche.
yeah, but then set a business account up. A
And
whole
you're
different
really
thing, yeah.
fighting a
Like
battle
it
there.
worked for the cat, but now it's not working for me. What
That's
was
it as well
that
because
about?
if you set up like in random story as well. Obviously Instagram's changed this, but in uni we had a module where we had to build a community, right? So we and our group we created Dogs of Leicester. Really simple idea. Send in your dogs, the page reposts it. Simple as. The amount, like every day we would have dog account after dog account after dog account following. And it's like once you're part of a almost like a community of something
Yeah,
a faceless community, people are so much more willing to engage, like, share stuff, than if it's like people or like businesses sort of thing. So if you can fall into a bit of a niche like that, I think that's when you strike gold because you find other people that are
yeah,
in your circle then.
yeah. And it's fun, isn't it? It is a little bit of a distraction, but it's relatable in every way, isn't it? If you're a dog person, that is.
Yeah, definitely. 'Cause you want
Yeah.
to see other dogs on your feed, right? That's like the main
Yeah.
reason you're going to be on your dog account, sort of thing. So, um, yeah, it is interesting. It is interesting how some accounts just struggle a lot
Yeah.
more than others. But yeah,
Was the whole conversation for another time, Dan.
definitely.
Yeah.
How to grow your dog account 101.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you.
No worries. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dan.
what is your Instagram or LinkedIn? LinkedIn's going to be Dan Dennis.
Dan Dennis, yeah, LinkedIn's Dan Dennis. My business is Video Formula, and my Instagram is video_marketing_podcast. So
Oh, okay, yes.
if you're looking for that, you know how to search for it.
Amazing. Thank you to everybody who is listening in as well. Any questions for Dan? If you see this on YouTube, LinkedIn, Spotify, please comment below and we'll get a response from Dan for, yeah, a reply to any queries, questions, challenges, etc. Give us a like and a follow or subscribe, whatever it is, on your favourite platform where you're listening, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, guys. See you later.
Thanks, Dan. See ya.
Bye.